Everyone thinks that they can give advice. Everyone has something to say, a different idea, some bit of wisdom that they think is really going to help you in life. If you are talking to somebody about, like, maybe you're just venting, it could be a problem. Maybe you really want realistic solutions. Everyone thinks that they've got a piece of advice that they can really give. But at the end of the day, most of their wisdom is complete and utter bullshit. It doesn't apply to your life, and it doesn't make sense. But at the same time, you do come across once in a great while bits of wisdom that change your life and your existence. And today's episode is all about those bits of wisdom that Brent and I have received over the course of our lives. This is Coffee and Catastrophe with Brent and Gabi.
When I was a little boy, my dad said, never build a relationship on truth, build it on lies.
Oh, you've shared that in a previous episode. How far has that wisdom got you?
Not too far. Tried the lying thing. It doesn't work. It never works.
Oh no.
You have to put in work. You have to put in work to lie.
Oh my God. It's so much effort to lie. So much effort.
Yeah. So, what was some of the stuff that you have heard throughout your life, either and through what medium? Was it in person? Like, just let's break it down.
Yeah, no, I wrote down, so Brent can see it, and obviously you viewers can't. I have a huge list, and I wrote down actually who the wisdom is attributed to. The first bit of wisdom that I have is from the great philosopher Elsa from the movie Frozen, and it's let it go. I think that there is no better piece of advice, especially for someone like myself that has the tendency to overthink and replay things in my mind, or how interactions could or should have gone, or how they actually did go. And at the end of the day, you just gotta let it go.
That's very sagely advice, and I still have not seen the movie.
I really liked Frozen. I only saw it once, but like, I dig it. It's good. It's like very feministy, you know. She doesn't need a man to complete her. It's good. I like Frozen.
Does she does the snowman help her out?
The snowman helps, but he's more of a hindrance at times because he's really stupid and he's like really dim-witted and fun. He's more like comic relief. The big thing about Frozen that I don't get, which I guess is all Disney movies, they just randomly burst into song and you're like, what the fuck? Why did this need to happen? But yeah, so Frozen, let it go. I think that's a great piece of advice that I've, just cultivated within the past 3 years.
So, how so have you applied it?
Oh, just when I get to in that head spunny zone, just being like, bitch, let it go. I don't call myself bitch. That would be mean, but just like, dude, let it go. Whatever. Stop fucking ranting about it. Just let it go. I'll get obsessive about stuff in my brain and I'll just go over it and over it and over it. And I'm just like, let it fucking go. Let it go. And now I'll kind of do it with like people in my life. Like they'll be complaining about a certain topic or like whatever. And I'm like, let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Just let it go. If you can't, can you change it? Can you change what you can't control? Okay, great. Let it go. Let the rest of it go. Because the more you harp on it and the more negativity you bring into your, whole fucking experience with this thing, the worse it's going to get. So let it the fuck go.
I have to do that.
Yeah, let it go.
I'm holding on to way too much shit.
You know what helps me? I envision a balloon that is tied down to like a railing. And then I take a big ass pair of scissors, and on that balloon, it's a white balloon and it's written whatever the thing is, like, this person that you keep obsessingly thinking about. I take big ass scissors mentally and I cut the string of the balloon and I let it float up into the sky and I never see that fucker again. I let it go.
Have you really done that?
Yeah, I literally visualize that shit. I don't like physically do it.
I thought
No. I think about these things. I have not, because then it'd be like, what the fuck is that girl doing? Also, like, I'm actually kind of like afraid of balloons. Like, I'm always afraid they're gonna randomly pop around me.
That's I went through a phase in my life in my early childhood where I would get very sad whenever I saw a floating balloon like in the sky. like the most profound sadness I've ever felt in my whole life
from watching a balloon.
Yeah, I don't know. I just remember one time like I was at some maybe it was a church, I don't remember, but I was like really little, maybe 5 or 6, and then I remember I got a helium balloon, and then I went outside and my dumbass just let it go willingly. And then I just opened my hand. It's not like I tripped or anything. As soon as I walked outside, I just opened my palm And then the balloon was never seen or heard from again.
Do you remember when they used to give, like, balloons out to children at restaurants, like, all the fucking time? Like, TGI Fridays, like, that was their fucking thing in the 90s. And I distinctly remember it being like, Mom, Dad, I'm afraid it's gonna pop. And they're like, okay, let's just go let it go outside, which is actually really bad for the environment and you shouldn't do it. But, yeah. So my first bit of wisdom is let it go. If you're obsessing about it, if it's impeding your existence, if it's not adding to you, let it go.
It's very practical and implementable and is very useful for any walk of life. I am going to try to go as far back as I can. So my dad told me the built a relationship on lies, not truth. He told me that when I was a little kid. I'm going to go into high school now. My English teacher, Mr. Phyllis, he's one of my favorite teachers of all time. He told the class one day, and I can't remember the context, but he said, you will never be loved the way you want to be loved.
Oh.
I thought it was very, I don't know. I didn't like it at the time, but honestly, like just kind of reflecting on that advice has made me feel so much more free. Because that's not to say like, okay, like you will never find love, but I think like the way deep down that I would want to be loved, I might not ever find that because I can only love myself the way I love myself. Nobody else can love me the way I love me.
And I like the way you explained it because it sounds way more empowering now. Because, like, I'm not going to lie, you saw my face. I'm like, oh my fucking God, this is like the saddest piece of wisdom I've ever heard. I mean, like, it's kind of right, though, that, like, at the end of the day, you have to, like, love you more. Like, at the end of the day, if you don't think you're the shit, then no one else will. And actually, I didn't write this one down, but I did think of it. It's the bit of wisdom that RuPaul always gives at the end of his show. If you can't love yourself, then how in the hell can somebody else love you? Can I get an amen? And that's a good bit of wisdom that at the end of the day, if you can't love yourself, if you can't think you're the shit, if you can't love yourself the way you want to, then no one else is going to. I think also too, it's like a bar that has to be set because at the end of the day, we like don't know all of a person's head or brain. We just like know what they'll show us.
That is very true. Mr. Phyllis, in terms of like academics, and especially with taking multiple choice tests, he said like eventually like if you study and you're stuck on a question, if you really like kind of pay attention in between the words, then eventually the answers will start to talk to you. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was a nice trick at the time with taking multiple choice tests, but applying that wisdom to real life, reading in between the words to have the answers talk to you. I just found that to be very useful and very, I don't know, it just made a lot more sense to me like over the years. He set these truth bombs. He's like, okay, I'm going to put this proximity mine in your brain, in your 15-year-old brain, and then like when you're in your later 20s, it'll all make sense to you.
I love when like that shit like that happens where somebody will say something and at the time it doesn't make sense. I don't really have an example that I can give you, but I love that when it's just like, take this with you. Doesn't make sense now, but oh, it will. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't think I have any wisdom on here that's like from teachers or even family members. I don't know what that says about my teachers and my family members. But yeah, I don't know. I think maybe big truth bombs that have been given to me. There's another one kind of about growing up is We Skin Our Knees on the Way to Wisdom. That's by Karen O. She had a psycho opera called Stop the Virgins, virgin spelled Virgen. And I actually took a letterpress class last 2 years ago, and I made like a poster that says it because I think that it's kind of like growing pains that like sometimes the things that will teach us the most wisdom, the things that are leading us to where we need to be or want to be, sometimes it can be painful. Sometimes you fall down and you skin your knees, but getting back up and walking with the wisdom after you fell is really important.
And why does that sound so familiar?
We skin our knees on the way to wisdom. Oh, well, it's on a poster in there. You've seen those posters before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to have. Do I have one here? Oh, I don't have one. I don't have one up right now. But yeah, no, I like made those posters and I put one in my classroom.
Okay, is that on like one of your social media accounts too?
Yes, it is.
There we go.
We Skin Our Knees on the Way to Wisdom is on my I think it's on my Facebook because I have a little bio section now, and so I put like We Skin Our Knees on the Way to Wisdom. Yep. I have on my Instagram, I think I have And I Fought Piranhas, which is a White Stripes song.
That sounds very familiar as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just everything's taken from my favorite musicians. But yeah, we skin our knees on the way to wisdom. Like, it's going to be maybe painful or hard, but you get there.
Do you think wisdom has to be attained either, like it has to be somewhat in the distant past in order to kind of, get all of the lemonade out of those lemons? Do you think that it has to be from a life lived kind of wisdom?
I think that sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the people, I feel like where wisdom comes from is experience, but sometimes people who are not as experienced can provide wisdom. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like if I take my role as like a teacher, there's moments in time where my students teach me more than I can teach them, because that's just like how the life and the world works sometimes. Like, they have to teach me patience and understanding and love and all that stuff. Like, that they have less experiences than me just by the nature of our age difference, yet they can teach you so much.
So, all right, your turn.
My turn.
Yeah.
I said we skin our knees on the way to wisdom.
Okay.
Gosh, Brent.
I got CRS.
Yeah, you can't remember shit.
Yeah.
It's been a while since you've said that.
Yeah, at least 2 episodes. So, about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I started getting into this comedian named Patrice O'Neill.
Yes.
And Patrice, and what I've actually done is over the course of 2 years, I literally researched every single thing he has ever said and done. I've listened to literally hundreds of hours of radio interviews, appearances, news show broadcasts, all of his stand-up, anything, all the stuff that he was writing or that was written about him. I literally researched this dude for 2 years, and I was going to collaborate with a guy to write a screenplay about his life. I have since put that aside, but just listening to his words of wisdom has really changed my life, at least at that point in time. And one of the words of wisdom that I took away from him is it's not about avoiding failure. It's about learning to be okay in the face of failure.
I like that a lot. I've also 2 bits of wisdom. One bit of wisdom I've recently found is that remember that failure is an event, not a person. Again, in the moment, you're not a failure. You failed at this one thing, but you're not a failure. And the second is that failure is certain if you don't try. That is something that I told myself for a few years now. And I don't know who said it, but it's one of those things that just if you don't try, of course you're going to fail. It's instead you have to put yourself out there and get comfortable with the idea of failure and still be okay. Because at the end of the day, you're not that failure and you'll be okay.
Yeah. So, it's really easy for us to think that we are failures based on the shit that we don't do. But, when Patrice said that, he said that in the face of comedy, his philosophy was he didn't avoid bombing on stage, meaning he didn't avoid not making people laugh. And his philosophy was if I'm bombing, I'm taking you all down with me. Such a brilliant, I've never thought of that before in comedy, because a lot of comedians, if they're bombing, they try to win over the crowd. Yeah. And it fails even more. But if he says, if I'm bombing, I'm kicking people out of the room, and I've seen him do it, obviously not in person, but in specials and stuff. He complete master of that. And I was just Jesus Christ.
That's awesome.
Dude, so being okay in the face of failure is something that I've been telling a lot of students over the years as well. I've been doing this embedded tutor program at the college I work at for the past maybe 4 or 5 summers. Mm-hmm. And that is one of the things that I tell them every single time the semester comes to an end, because, they're 18 years old. They're scared shitless. They don't want to fail. And they think that if they fuck up, then they're never going to graduate college. But, I try to cake those words into a lot of sentences. Just say hey, look, it's going to be okay. It's just a minor setback. And that's something that I really could have used myself a long, long time ago.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I really don't think I've really failed at a lot of things in life, but I think that's because the things that I really want to do and really are quote unquote gambles or risky, I haven't taken those risks. I haven't done them. I haven't given myself the opportunity to fail, which means of course I'm going to fail. And now as things are manifesting that are really good that I want, now I'm kind of on this precipice of failure. So I need to get comfortable with failure real fast.
Yeah. I think my failures are more of just events that I really, really fucked up, with something.
But it was an event, not like in that sense, then yes, I've totally been a failure before. But I wouldn't say there's like any task I've pretty much been given or tried to do. I wouldn't say I've like failed, but only time will tell. Only time will tell. I'm sure I will fail at something. I feel like that sounds like conceited, like I've never failed at anything before, because I have. Like having a healthy, decent relationship. I'm just kidding.
Oh, it's gonna be okay. You're gonna find his name will be Gus.
I think the first thing I think of when I think of Gus is Gus Fring from Breaking Bad, which is one of my favorite TV shows.
Yeah.
In terms of like other wisdom I can provide, one thing I wrote down that I try to remember in addition to failure is certain if you don't try is Kevin Smith wrote a book called Tough Shit. And the first piece of Tough Shit, I believe, is Even Good Men Die Screaming, which is taken from his father, who was a very lovely, sweet man, but he fucking died screaming from like a heart attack or something. Like he died screaming. And so Kevin Smith is basically saying like, hey, for all you artist types out there, you just need to take a fucking chance and do it, because you're going to die. You're going to die screaming. It doesn't matter how much of a good person you are. You're going to die. So you might as well take a chance and make your fucking art. And I totally agree with that. And it doesn't have to be just art. It's like whatever you want to do in life, just do it. You got one life to live. Fucking try.
I haven't really known too much of. I mean, I know he's a director and I've seen some of his movies, but I haven't seen any of his specials or really too much of his interviews. Mm-hmm. So, but he's
really talkative.
Yeah, he strikes me as a very wise dude.
Yeah, he has wisdom to him. I wouldn't say that he's. You know what? If anyone in my life is like Kevin Smith, it's you, because you have the dirtiest, filthiest, fucking fucked up jokes, but you're also very wise.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to strike the balance in between those two.
You do a good job.
Still trying.
You do a good job.
I failed more times than succeeded, but when I do succeed, it's life-changing.
Life-changing.
So, Patrice also said, this wasn't, Patrice didn't say this himself directly. After Patrice O'Neal died, the Opie and Anthony show had which he was a frequent guest on, they had a kind of a few tribute episodes, and in one of those episodes, Dane Cook was on there, and then Dane Cook came up with Patrice O'Neal kind of around the same time. Mm-hmm. A lot of the Boston comics kind of were together, so Dane kind of transcended out of that because he was this mega superstar. So you had Colin Quinn, Patrice O'Neal, Jim Norton, Rich Voss, you had Kevin Hart, Dane Cook, but one time Patrice was talking with Dane, and he told Dane, be the truth. Because if you can't be the truth, you can't be present. It's all about being present. And I remember Patrice's words to Dane, even though Dane said them, but be the truth is something that has really kind of changed my life over this past year or two, because I wasn't very honest. I wasn't living honestly at all. Whether it was to kind of deny reality or just avoid conflict, but just being truthful and being honest in my everyday life has been so freeing. I don't know if it's too deep of a metaphor, but I kind of feel clean. At least maybe I have a clean slate because there's nothing that I'm holding on to.
Yeah.
Because I've been able to express literally everything that has been on my mind. I really don't have any secrets. Maybe there's things that one person might not know that another person does, but it's not a harmful secret. Whereas, I could end all of my relationships with people based on all of these secrets, and if something does come up from my past, I'll definitely own up to it. So to me, be the truth is something that has really, really helped carry me through my later adult years. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could definitely see that's very profound. One thing in yoga that I'll do, sometimes a mantra they use is to know the truth, speak the truth, live the truth. And I think also in the diversity work I do in my school, there's a lot of talk about you have to live your truth. And it's whatever is true to you, you need to act in accordance with that. And it doesn't matter if somebody's experience is different than yours. You have to be true to yourself. And we were talking earlier about trusting your gut and knowing and trusting your intuition. And I think that's part of it is what's right. What's truthful. What feels good. which kind of relates to one of my mantras or one of the bits of wisdom I have from yoga, which is find what feels good. Yoga with Adriene has a company, or like her associate company is Find What Feels Good. And literally that is so profound for me, because in a space where in a time and place where I have chosen to feel worse rather than trying to make myself feel better, finding what feels good is like a good mantra. And like, even like in those low moments, like, well, what feels good? Find what feels good for you. What would feel better right now? Like, you know, if you need to have a good day, all right, what feels good right now? Go do it. If it doesn't feel good anymore, what does feel good instead? Go do that. And then that's just, you know, builds the momentum of like positive stuff, positive feeling, which relates to another bit of wisdom. This is not from a specific person, but this is actually just knowledge from psychology and my psychology degree. There's this phenomenon called priming, where if you prime your brain with a specific thought or word, you will see it more in your life. So for example, like if it's the same thinking of like when we're going to paint a room, we put down the primer and then we put down the coat, because when the actual paint goes onto the primer, it's brighter, it sticks out more, so on and so forth. So like the way that my psychology professor like had us learn about this was that he had us write down the words ocean and moon at the beginning of class. And then at the end of class, he said, give me a laundry detergent. And everyone said Tide, because ocean and moon are related to tide. So this is an example of priming, where if you prime yourself with like positive things, like if I prime myself with like, I'm going to have a good day, I'm going to do everything I want, or I don't know, positive thoughts about like, I'm doing a good job, I am worthy, I'm doing enough, you will feel that or see that more throughout the day. And it's a little mental trick kind of to get you into a positive space and to seeing and to feeling and being more positive throughout your day.
Damn, dude.
And you know me, I've had to work on that shit for, well.
But you've been doing so good, though.
Exactly, but I've been doing so good.
Because you've been doing okay in the face of failure, as opposed to just, you know, avoiding it and like, you know, being destroyed.
Yes.
You know.
Oh, that's one thing I failed at. I failed to be consistent with the habits that I want to keep. So I have failed before multiple times. Habits I want to keep, being a good student, being a good partner. I've totally failed at all those things before.
Yeah. Kind of piggybacking. I'm going to kind of go on a bunch of Patrice, you know, because this guy, literally, like when you spend 2 years getting to know a subject.
Yeah.
You pick up a lot of shit. And this guy is one of the most brilliant minds in comedy. Not only that, but just with life in general. Mm-hmm. And good is good if it's good for me.
Yep.
So that's one I've been telling to people who are in like relationships, or they are in the courting process of a potential relationship, where they just definitely feel like their gut instinct is telling them to like back away. Like, let's just say if like they're into open relationships and then the person I'm talking to is not, it's like, well, good's good if it's good for you. Is it good for you? No. Is it good for him? Yeah. Well, there you go. It's
not good for you, so you got to go.
Yeah.
I think that's true. And it's something, again, finding what feels good, finding what feels great. Good is good if it's good for you, if it's good for me. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to find what feels good. One thing that I was brought back to when you talked about Patrice O'Neill earlier was, I don't know how this related because I can't remember back to it, but one bit of wisdom from Jack White, I think this probably relates with failure, is that sometimes why you're doing something is more important than what you're doing. So like, why are you making music? Why are you doing comedy? Why are you making a podcast? That is more important sometimes than the content of it. Is it a release for your soul? Is it a way for you to give back? Is it, you know, XYZ? That is more important sometimes than what the content of it is. And I think that that's been, especially like for artistic people, artistically minded people, even people in like who aren't artistic, who have like goals or whatever in like their working lives and relationships. That's important to remember, that what you're, you know, why you're doing it's more important sometimes.
Have you come to find out the reasons why you are doing the things that you're doing?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, like, I think I've talked about in here, like why I'm doing music, even though it's something that maybe people would say like can't work out or whatever, is because I need to feel whole as a person and to feel like I'm alive. Because if I don't do it, I don't feel like I can exist. Like, not to sound like morbid, but like, yeah, Like, that's why. And that's so the what, I mean, it's the first time I've ever done it. I'm sure it will be very different than what I produce 5 years from now. But doing it because I need to live is more important than the what.
It makes so much sense. You know, I'm noticing that, like, since we've met each other, we've been kind of coming at like a very similar, like, emotional crossroads, though through different journeys.
Yes.
So, like, when, like, shit was, like, going bad, like, we kind of, like, rode that, like, together. Like, when shit was going great, we rode that together. And when shit's been getting really confusing and, you know, we've had those existential moments, like, we've kind of been on that train together.
Yeah, no, definitely. I actually have a bit of wisdom from you on here.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, but I'm going to hold on to it till the very end.
Okay. So,
No, you're like nervous.
Well, yeah.
You should be. It's really good.
Okay. I've said a lot of corny shit.
It doesn't mention tits, assholes, or booties, nothing.
Oh, I have no idea what it is then.
Yeah.
So, I actually do have a few bits of advice that I've come up with myself that I've tried to apply it in my own life. Not only that, but just to, like, kind of tell people, like, for words of encouragement or, you know, whether or not, like, that could be helpful in the moment. That's, like, something I always have gone back to. So it's weird because, like, in my more aloof and seemingly disjointed, like, thoughts, I'm able to come up with some decent wisdom in those moments for other people. Mm-hmm. It's just strange. So the truth is never brutal, only lies.
The truth isn't brutal, but lies are brutal?
Yeah, so if you're brutally
honest?
Yeah, if you're brutally honest, like, why is it considered brutal that what you consider the truth is brutal? Like, lies are brutal, not the truth.
Yeah.
That's another one from Patrice.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. I think the only time it's brutal honesty is when the person is not prepared to hear it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I do think, like, at a certain point you have to know your audience and, like, when to say something. But, you know, letting that fall away, I think that it is more important to be truthful and honest than it is to lie to the person.
Yeah. I mean, and all the times, like, I've talked, like, we've had conversations about, like, what's been going on in our lives. I've found, like your honesty to be a lot more helpful, though sometimes I know, like, when you tell me certain things, like, there's a preface of, like, you know, I don't mean this, but, you know, but I would much rather have that than say, like, oh, no, this is totally the lie to make you feel more comfortable right now.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, and some people think that, like, that in reality, what they want is lies. Like, it's better to lie to somebody than to give them the truth. And, like, I understand the thinking behind that, but ultimately the lies hurt more in the end. The lies are more brutal. If you tell somebody you love them and it's a lie for a month, 4 months from now, you've been lying to them for 4 months. Like, just be honest. It's really hard, though. I know it's really hard to be honest sometimes when it's a reality that you're uncomfortable with. Like, again, using that, like, example of a relationship of, like, I'm like, not, this isn't going the way I want it to go. That it has great potential to hurt that person. But if you don't say it, it's just going to get worse. So I understand that completely.
It seems like the truth and time work very well together, and they are in constant contact, kind of like the police and hospitals. Mm-hmm. Like, let's just say if there's, like, a criminal that is in... I mean, I saw a movie yesterday. It's called Let Me In. It's a remake of the, I think, Swedish film Let the Right One In. And at the beginning of the movie, a criminal is being transported to the hospital. So the police know about this criminal, and the hospital knows. So this person pretty much has no freedom. So imagine, like, if you told a lie is the criminal, the police is time because it's more tyrannical and, you know, is enforcing order on you. Mm-hmm. And the truth is the hospital, because if you tell the truth, like, you really are taking care of yourself when you do so.
Yeah.
There has been only one instance in my life, and especially now where I am coming to terms with battling with telling the truth to somebody because of the insurmountable amount of damage that it will do after I do so. The
amount of harm that the truth will cause.
Yeah. Like, there's, like, something where there is no good outcome in it. So I'm at this moral conundrum where I kind of have to keep that to myself to be the least painful outcome for everybody, because it's that devastating if I let this truth out.
Yep.
So that's the only other time in my life where I've really battled that.
Yeah, I think the most when I've been dating, it's been just like the honesty of like, this isn't going where I want it to go, or like even the honesty of like, I've dated people that I really, I can always find something like redeeming about a person, but like at the end of the day, like being and going out with people that you like really don't like have anything I don't want to say anything positive to say, because I can find anything positive to say about somebody, but you just like know that this is not the person, not your person, and that like, how do you say that just like a casual like, hey, I don't think this is going, or hey, I really didn't like it when you ordered for me, or hey, I just don't think this is going where I want it to go, even after all this time, I'm sorry, blah blah blah. Like, I don't know. I think that's the hardest, because I always don't want to hurt people, but I think the lies hurt more in the end.
They always do. I've never seen a lie work out for the benefit of anybody, nor have I seen anybody get away with a lie, like a straight up lie, because I think Mark Twain said the quote, and I can't remember verbatim, but it was like you have to. It's more work to keep up with a lie, because like down the line you won't be able to remember it.
Yep.
Than as like you would the truth.
Yep.
So, yeah, I wish I would have researched that part before I came onto this podcast. But
I appreciate your honesty, though.
Thank you.
Do you have more stuff about like the truth and honesty? I'm looking at my list, and it's all very like personal, like individualized things, like doing with the tending and caring of an individual.
Yeah, two things that are slightly related. Do something and repent, do nothing and regret.
That's good. I like that.
Oh my God, I was such a hipster when I was in film school. I actually would write that inside the stalls of the bathroom with a Sharpie pen.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I was such a hipster, dude. But one time I did that, it actually, like, people would actually draw lines outside of it, and like, we're like adding comments, like someone were like this, and then like one person like wrote, fuck that, just live. And then like one person drew an arrow to that guy's comment and said, well, this is actually like the crossroads that we come into in our life. Like, people were just talking about what I said.
I love that. I love the silent discussion on a bathroom wall.
Yeah, like eventually the janitor wiped it away. But then I remember like the very last day of class, I said, always remember, do something and repent, do nothing and regret. So, still coming to terms with that myself, because there's still a lot of risks I need to take in order to get like back onto the path that I want to live for the rest of my life, like namely with comedy. So I really have to take that risk. And I know if I don't get on that train sometime soon, you know, I'm going to be stuck at the station for like the rest of my life, and I'm going to be like, fuck.
And then you're like, fuck, I never got on that train. What would have happened? Because at least if you try, then you at least know the outcome. If you never tried, if you never put yourself out there, then you just live in anguish for the rest of your life, because you don't know what could have been. Yeah.
And the next one, I think that's the last one, dealing with the truth, is a quote from my mom, even though it was from Shakespeare, but she actually wrote this in her yearbook when she was in high school, and it's kind of carried through like me throughout my life. And I know she would write it on a lot of birthday cards, Christmas cards, like, you know, big moments like, you know, graduation and stuff like that, or whatever, like a big life event that, you know, happened to me. She would always write, you know, to thy own self be true.
Oh.
So, you know, I'm going to get all gushy because it's my mom, but, you know, it really is so true, because to your own self, you have to be true. And that's the only way you really interact with everybody, like in the world. And if you can't be your truest, most authentic self, you know,
what are you doing?
Yeah, it's such a like gigantic pitfall where nobody wins and everybody is suffering if you are just building your life on lies. And even though my dad said build a relationship on lies and not truth, maybe the dating game 50 years ago, you can get away with that shit. But now I think for anything long lasting, just being honest and telling the truth and, you know, coming to that consensus is essential for building any relationship, whether it be friendship, romantic, family, anything.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I love that this is coming from your mom. Like, that's so sweet. And I think at the end of the day, like, if you're not living your fullest, authentic, truest life, then what are you doing? Because again, you only get one. And life is too short to waste your time not being you or not doing the things you want to do or not speaking your mind or, you know, trying out the things that you want to try. And if you fail, whatever, at least you tried it out. You might, feel bad, you got egg on your face, but whatever, you tried. To thine own self be true. That's really sweet. You should get that tattooed.
It's so cheesy.
It's so sweet.
But like, here's like my version of that. Usually when I write a birthday card or a note for somebody, instead of writing that, what I do is like on the top left-hand corner, I draw the sun peeking into the card.
Yes, you drew that on one of my cards.
Yeah, that's my little signature now. It's
that's
like
cute.
Like on the left-hand side, like I'll write like Dear Gabby or whatever, and I just draw the sun peeking in. It's like the little, like a quarter of the sun.
Yeah, like through the corner of the page. And does he have sunglasses on usually?
No, it's just the sun. But it's the sun, but it's just, it's really cheesy and corny, but that's like been my unintentional signature over the years, and I think that rubbed off on me from my mom writing to thy own self be true.
That's sweet. I actually I think my little signature is on the the front of the card where you address it on the envelope. I write the person's name and then I do these like expressive lines shooting off of their name. It's like how I do, like, I think it's really like cute and minimalist, so like, because I can draw, but I really can't draw. And like, so that's like what I do. And actually I just wrote one. I wrote a thank you card for one of my students who, my sophomores in my English class, it was like the first week of school. And they were talking about like, can we have a class pet? And I was like, no, but I'd be down for a class plant. And so then they're like, let's have a cactus. No, let's have a succulent. So like this kind of was talked about or whatever. And one kid called Walmart to see if they had succulents and they didn't. And, I just kind of thought it kind of like died away or whatever. And then all of a sudden this kid comes in with a box and he's like, Miss C, I got this for us. And I open it and it's a terracotta pot with 4 succulents in it. So now we have a succulent in our room and we've named it. They wanted to name it like Deshaun or Tyrone. And like, it's a room full of white kids. And I'm like, we're not playing this game. Like, no. So, I was like, okay, let me like figure out a name for it or whatever. And we took all these suggestions, but again, they were very racially charged names that I didn't feel comfortable because none of my kids are, I've got a couple students of color in there, but none are African-American or black. So I was like, this is weird. Instead I told my coworkers and they're like, one of the name suggestions was Stabby. And like, we like Stabby because it rhymes with Gabby. So we have a succulent that's name is Mr. Stabby and Prickles the Third.
Stabby and Gabby.
But obviously they don't call me Gabby because they're my kids. But so I wrote him a thank you card, and they're these like cool cards I got from World Market. They have like the good luck cat on it, the one that like knocks, has its arm waving, yes. And it says sending you good juju, and it's just blank on the inside. So I wrote like, James, thank you so much for our lovely succulent. We will cherish her always with gratitude. And it was like it's really like sweet and lovely. And that, but I then on the envelope did the James and like with the things shooting out. So.
I like Stabby.
Yeah. And I'm going to get him a little gift card from, like Cold Stone.
That's sweet.
Yeah. Cause like and his parents were at our conference, like they came to conferencing and they were like telling me that like, they had no idea, like he like texted them, was like, I added something to the Amazon cart, and they were like, okay. And then when they got it, they're like, what? Why is it a succulent? He told them. And apparently he's a student that normally doesn't like English, and they're like, we're just so happy and grateful that he has you, because like this is like the only time he's ever been like successful in English, and we think it's you and this class, and like, so it was really sweet. And he deserves a little gift card, a little thank you.
Oh man. So this is one I used to say years ago, but I haven't said this probably since. Mm-hmm. And it's something that I've come up with. So, if time heals all wounds, then laughter is the best medicine.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Sometimes laughter is not the best medicine. Like, have you ever been really upset and then someone like says something like really funny and you're almost like mad that you laughed and you're like, I don't want to laugh right now. I just want to be sad.
No, I mean, like most of the times, like when fucked up shit happens in my life, like I have one of my friends who says like he's kind of like me, but he intentionally says the wrong thing the right way. But it's so, like I'm so hyper aware of like humor and context. Mm-hmm. That it's very rare that I'm personally offended when someone is trying to make a joke and it's directed at me. Mm-hmm. if they're being serious, like, Brent, you're just like a fat piece of shit. Like, okay, I'll take that. But just to give you some context, for instance, I asked you before we recorded this episode to take a picture of me. And you were trying to get me to smile. And I said, say the most fucked up thing you can think of. And then you said, Brent, your dick is so small and I haven't even seen it. And I laughed.
I did do that.
And it was really, I'm smiling now. That was so funny. Because, like, I knew, like, because you didn't even pause. I just said, like, what's the most
fucked up thing you can think of this instant?
And then, like, a half a beat later, you just said
like,
that.
Brent, you got a tiny dick and I've never even seen it.
Yeah. It was so funny. Whereas, like, if I went to the doctor's office and I was like, hey, doc, I don't know, I've been having, like, some problems down there. And then the doctor just said, yeah, you have the tiniest dick I've ever seen. I haven't even seen it yet. I'd be like, oh, okay.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, doc. Or, you know, my potential wife, or, like, my dad. I don't know.
If anyone in your life said that,
yeah,
it would just be bad.
But I picked up on the context. The context is what made that funny. Sometimes it's not even in the words that are said, but the context. So that's why that was so fucking funny. So
Yeah.
I always want to laugh because I'm usually the one putting in, like, I'm trying so hard to make other people laugh, like, all the time. Mm-hmm. So, like, when people make me laugh for whatever reason, it's such a nice little reprieve.
Yeah, for sure. I don't, none of my things are, like, really about, like, happiness or laughter. If you want to go real dark for a moment, a famous Buddhist monk said this. If you should meet Buddha on the road, kill him. And what that means is that, like, if there's someone, like, proclaiming themselves to be, like, God or the greatest thing or the thing to be worshipped, it's probably not actually that, and you should, like, kill it, or, like, not literally, but figuratively, like, do away with it. So it's kind of like, I think of this as, like, wolves in sheep's clothing a lot, like, that there are people who present themselves as, like, knowing it all, have it all figured out, gurus, so on and so forth, but they're really not. They're actually like a wolf in sheep's clothing, and you shouldn't trust them. You should trust yourself more than you trust them.
God damn, dude.
I forget where I learned that. I think it was because I was taking a intro to Buddhism class in college. And that was like one of the quotes is that, you know, if you should meet Buddha on the road, then kill him. And because it's not actually the Buddha. Like, the Buddha is so much higher and bigger than that. It could never be a physical being.
Have you ever killed a Buddha?
No, but after saying it, I think I have a Buddha that I need to kill.
Sounds good. So, it's not really wisdom, but I've really, like, just, like, talking with you, like, through this podcast and just throughout our time hanging out together over, like, the past year or so, mm-hmm. I've noticed the more honest that you have been with yourself, the more I've seen your forehead.
Oh, what do you mean?
Like, I never saw your forehead.
What the fuck does that mean?
I don't know. I'm just saying that, like, whenever you're being, like, your most, like, honest and or vulnerable, I see your fucking forehead, dude.
Well, you know why? Because I'm vulnerable about my forehead. It's a 5 head. It's not even a 4 head. It's so big. So that's probably, like, I don't know.
Dude,
I'm letting it be seen.
It's always just been, like, your bangs. Like, I've always just seen, like, your hair just chilling and be like, hey, what's up?
Yeah, no. Oh, my God. Like, it's honestly, like, when I, like, need to guard myself, I totally do use my bangs for it.
But right now, dude, like, I'm in full view
of the 5 head. It's right there. I'm not wearing a stitch of makeup. My armpits are sweating. I think I remembered to put deodorant on. I did not remember to put deodorant on. Yeah, no, this is me very honest and vulnerable for sure.
Yeah.
That's fun. You see my forehead.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, again, mine are like a lot about like tending to yourself. And so one is Krista Tippett of one of my favorite podcasts on being. She says, you know, to tend to your inner life, which is like, again, if you would have told me like a couple years ago that I was going to be so spiritual and into like my mind and like being positive or like yoga, I would have told you to go fuck yourself. And that is not me. But like literally tending to my inner life and how I feel and my emotions and my mentality in life, and my spiritual side has really uplifted me and made a more positive experience out of life.
Fucks yeah, dude. So when did you start like realizing like this wisdom? Like when did you start taking in like the wisdom that you've learned, or have you kind of always been craving wisdom and then once it came along you were just able to grab onto it right away?
I think both. I think I've always wanted to know how to live a good life, and that's what I think wisdom is a lot of times. But I also think that you have to be mentally, I can say something over and over again, but until you're ready to hear it, you won't hear it, right? So I think that being in a being in a state where I am ready to hear and receive those things is like what helped a lot, though. So, for example, like we've talked a lot about how like when my dog got cancer, it was this big moment of like life is really short, and even the best, even good dogs die screaming. He didn't die screaming. He died very peacefully, but even like good, even the best boy, the best dog ever, they die. And that you can't go out through your life not doing what you want to do or what you're dreaming of, because otherwise like nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to come of it. So there's that. And I think I was just ready to receive, and I was ready to have a better life. I was just ready for that. I was so sick of being in the negative and like thinking bad thoughts and like not wanting to help myself that I was like, fuck that shit. Take hold of your life, empower yourself. That's because that's a huge part of like my teaching philosophy. It's all comes down to empowerment, whether my kids realize it or not. I want it always to be like empowerment of themselves, and to make sure that they can leave my classroom being able to do whatever they want to do because they were empowered with this knowledge or skill set.
Fucks yeah, dude.
Hell yeah.
So you still trying to like seek out knowledge and wisdom like by any means, or like where do you where do you find that you get the most wisdom from?
Oh man, like everywhere. Like the same with you, where you like seek out the like people you admire. That way, I have one here from Karen O, which is that heartbreak as a gift to the artist. Like, you know, I'll like watch interviews that came from an interview that she did, stuff like that. Just like bits of things, just listening to people. Oh my God, if you just listen to people, you'll hear things that you can take away with you. Krista Tippett is a great one because it's a podcast. It's very spiritually minded, but also really practical. And it just looks at the beautiful things in life at times and the dark things, but how we get through it. It's just great. It's really positive, and that's really inspired me. And even like hippy dippy shit, like Abraham Hicks is this person who does like who believes in like law of attraction, and that even though it's woo woo, like I think that it's a good mental shift for me because I was in such a negative space for a large part of life. So that now that I'm actively trying to be positive, like I'm listening to, especially like Abraham Hicks, you know, Abraham Hicks is this person, Esther Hicks, who thinks that she channels non-physical beings that like know everything and are all wise or whatever, how the universe works. I don't know how much of that I believe, but I do believe that like a lot of what she says is entrenched in psychology, in that, and she goes by Abraham Hicks because the beings that she channels are named Abraham or something. And like, I don't really know how much of that I believe, but I know that like the things that she does say about like focusing on the positive and changing your thoughts and then the behavior has been really helpful for me. I don't really think I believe in the woo half of it, but like I do believe that if I can prime myself for a good day and think positively, I'll get more of that positivity back. So I think I'm always trying to listen and learn. What about you?
Definitely, yes. I noticed that about myself 4 years ago, where I just, kind of made myself learn outside of the structure of school. Whereas with school, you're just kind of a sponge and you're just being squeezed as soon as you go in there. Yeah. And then like once you release the grip, you take with you whatever, you're surrounded with whenever you absorb it. But, when you're in your free time, you're just like, I'll just have fun in my free time. Like, that's what I would think. I was like, okay, only video games. And I was like, all right, that's all I did is play video games. Like, only play Magic. That's all I fucking did. Mm-hmm. But now I'm listening to podcasts. I'm reading books. I'm like writing. I've written more like this year than I ever have in my entire life.
That's awesome.
Probably combined. Maybe like well over 100,000 words at this point.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, like so many fucking words. And I'm like I'm changing my vocabulary. Like I'm using more words. And like even like my conversations with friends, I'm saying words that I've never said before. Like earlier I said epiphanic. Like what the fuck?
What the fuck?
So I'm finally trying to like use this sort of pseudo intelligence that I've been observing as opposed to just, saying like fucking. Listening to myself on this podcast has really changed the way I think about that stuff too, especially like with the toxic people episode, because I remember I was giving this long monologue about what my walk was in relation to, what, my perception of, walking out on a toxic person. And the whole time I was like, yeah, I was fucking doing this and I fucking did fucking that and I did fucking, I thought, fuck. I was just like,
No, that's interesting that you've cultivated the wisdom or the awareness of like how your language is like being perceived, but also that you've like increased your language through reading and writing. I think that's really cool. This is my last one before I get to yours. It's from Krista Tippett. She had an episode with Mary Carr, who is a memoirist and professor of English at Syracuse University. They were talking about like this notion of like taking care of yourself. And Mary Carr talks about how her friend was, called her and she said that she thought that she'd been going crazy and she needed to call the police, because she slapped one of her kids. And she'd never done that before, but she thought she was going crazy. And so when Mary like asked her like, well, what's been going on? And she's like, well, I haven't slept in days. I'm working full time and I've got like 3 kids. And she's like, well, have you like eaten anything today? And the woman's like, no. And Mary's like, okay, maybe you should like make yourself a sandwich first and like sit down. Maybe that's all you need right now is to like eat something and then get some sleep and like go step by step. Cause maybe and then she also was like, well, who thinks you're crazy? Who's been noticing that you're crazy? Is it just you? If it's just you, what's your source of information? If you think this or that, what's your source of information? If it's just you, maybe you're making it up. Like maybe you're the one causing all the issues here. And so like that notion of like take care of yourself and just being like, did you eat a sandwich? Have you eaten today? Have you slept today? Okay, maybe do those things before you think you're crazy. Or like, again, what's your source of information? If you think you're a piece of shit, who else is telling you you're a piece of shit? Oh wait, it's just you? Yeah, you need to like, okay, then here's your moment. You think you're a piece of shit. It's not that you're actually a piece of shit. It's just you think you're a piece of shit and you're wrong. I don't know. I thought that was just really interesting. I got a lot out of that.
Dude, that is so true. So it kind of reminds me of like, this might be a longer piece of wisdom that I obtained this year, but it's been really kind of changing my perception on things. And it's not anything that I can sum up in a sentence so much as an interpretation. And I know if you would have told me this 10 years ago, I'd have been like, get the fuck out of here. But the story of Noah's Ark.
Oh, I think that... Okay, go ahead. I think I know where this is going.
So, if you've been kind of listening to me closely throughout the progress of the podcast, it should come as no mystery that I'm a fan of Jordan Peterson. And, through like these series of biblical lectures that he did, I listened, and then like he had this interpretation of Noah's Ark that really, really stuck with me. So it wasn't, honestly proof that God exists so much as like the psychological impact that story has. So basically the literal interpretation of the story is, okay, there was a guy who's like 900 years old, built a boat, took 2 of each animal, and then the earth flooded. God said, yeah, fuck you guys. And then I'm going to flood the earth. And then when Noah was able to, when the water subsided, he was able to just like release the animals. And, God was like, all right, I'm never doing this again. See, the interpretation is this. Think of God as like your conscience. Checking in like with your conscience, like instead of like prayer, like praying to like an omniscient being, but like checking in with your conscience to see where it's at. There are 2 types of tragedies that you will face in life. One created through nature and one created through people. If you, I remember a few years ago, like my living room in my house flooded, like because of all the rain that came in. Like there's nothing that we can prepare for that. But the floods that people create, those are the ones that we have to watch out for. So what Noah did was check in with his conscience, and he didn't literally take 2 of each animal like the interpretation is. But if you think about what he took in there, he was taking in the things that would repopulate the world again once the flood dies down. So all of the things that are important to his world. So it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. And then when the boat got back to shore, he, was able to repopulate the world. I've been through a lot of tragedy throughout my life, and I'm seeing a lot of other people in my life right now go through insurmountable amounts of tragedy. And I'm really seeing this come both ways. In one way, I see one person's life being nearly destroyed because they did not take all of those things with them amidst the tragedy. And nobody wants to be in this person's life anymore, and this person will lose everything down the line. Whereas another person that's close to that person took everything that was important in their life, and when the flood subsided, they were able to repopulate the earth and make the world a livable place again. And what it really comes down to is living honestly and living dishonestly and finding the difference between the two.
Yeah. So
what I took away from that is just be ready for shit. And when that shit happens, and it's inevitable because it's life, just be prepared to never lose all the things that are important to you.
Yeah. And if you do come up against this big thing that feels insurmountable, it's really not that insurmountable in the long run. Life will go on. It'll be okay. If you hold closely to your chest, the things that are important to you, it'll be okay. You'll be fine in the end.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Okay. I just have one more. It's from you. Are you ready?
Okay.
It's done. You just didn't do it yet. Brent told me this. God. I think you were talking to me about my music stuff. Is that correct?
Yes.
And basically, you're the person that I've told the most about all of this stuff and how meaningful it is to me. And, I think I was saying how anxious and nervous I was to do all this stuff, and it was really important and vital to me, but I've never done anything like this before. And you just looked at me and you said, it's done. You just didn't do it yet. And that is an approach I tried to take, and a bit of wisdom I try to take with everything that's a big project in my life, in terms of accomplishing the things I want, a specific job or a specific living place. Definitely in my art, I always try to just think in the positive of it's done. I just didn't do it yet, or it's coming. It's just not completely done yet, and just keeping my head in that positive space.
Wow. Thank you.
Your turn to cry on this fucking podcast.
Okay. I'm afraid if I do, all the foam that we put up will fall down again.
That's true. Our tears have the possibility to shake the walls and make all the foam fucking fall down.
So I don't have anything to top that as a closer, but just to say that the reason why I said that is because I see so much goodness in you, and I see so much effort and trying, despite pain and suffering and darkness.
You're gonna make me cry. Stop.
I just really come to see it, and in a way, you're kind of like the Big Lebowski with this perception of that you have on life is no matter what happens, the dude abides.
Yep.
And that's you. So if this shit happens, you're able to literally stare it right in the face and be 100%. You bust out your forehead and you're just completely honest and truthful in the face of adversity. And that's very, very, not only admirable, but that's just been a real privilege to see over the past year. So while there's nothing I can think of wisdom that you have compartmentalized into a sentence that I could share on this podcast, it is just kind of witnessing your growth and your being, and just kind of sharing that time to get to know you. That's been very, very much a good example of wisdom in my book.
Oh, now I'm gonna cry. Thank you. It's hard. It's hard work, but it's good work. And maybe that's a bit of wisdom. All hard work is good work in the end. So, take with you the stick-to-itiveness. It really sucks being an English teacher who doesn't know words very well. But, that stick-to-itiveness, the positivity, the willingness to look failure in the face and keep moving, the willingness to be vulnerable, all of that stuff, I think, is we as humans need to take those things into account and think about them as we move on.
Every day, dude.
Every single motherfucking day.
Twice on Sunday.
Twice on Sunday. Why twice on Sunday?
I don't know. That's just what Stone Cold Steve Austin used to say. He's like, I'll whoop your ass every day of the week, twice on Sunday. I don't know.
What is Austin 3:16?
Austin 3:16 says I just whooped your ass.
So I don't really know if that's a bit of wisdom we could really use, but whatever. I was going to see if it was a bit of wisdom. It's really not. Oh, I know a bit of wisdom from The Rock to end us off, unless you have anything more. But what I'm thinking of is, how do you feel? It doesn't matter how you feel. That's not a good bit of wisdom. That's a horrible bit of wisdom.
He did also say it's not the car you're driving, it's the size of the arm like hanging out of it.
What the fuck does that mean?
I probably fucked it up, but it made sense when I read it because it's The Rock and he can do no harm, no wrong in my book.
He actually was used. I saw a meme and somebody was saying like toxic masculinity is bad. Give me examples of masculinity that isn't bad. And they used The Rock as an example. He's a very compassionate, loving human being.
Yeah, I think that's just be like The Rock.
Yeah.
But like your own interpretation of what The Rock is.
Our wisdom for you, dear listener, is be your version of Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Yes,
that is very much the truth because Dwayne The Rock Johnson, even when he was the heel, never lied.
And it just wouldn't be our podcast if we didn't talk about wrestling or poop or farts or tits. So we had to think of something and it was wrestling.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Well, this has been Coffee and Catastrophe with Brent and Gabi. I'm Gabi. That's Brent.
What's up?
And if you liked what you are listening to, you can like us on Facebook at Coffee and Catastrophe. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or CastBox. And you can also follow us on Twitter at CCWBG.
Take care and be good to each other, yo.
Bye. Go out there and be wise.